So how was the program in the morning? நல்லா இருந்துச்சா?
Sir,
Yes.
Sorry.
How was it?
Very nice, sir. Very nice. 2 VCs met now.
அதான் பார்த்து ரொம்ப டென்ஸ்டா இருந்தீங்க, எக்ஸைட்டடா இருந்தீங்க.
நான் யூனிவர்சிட்டி நான் போனதே 9:45 ஆயிடுச்சு. இங்கிருந்து 1.5 hour டிராவல்.
ஓகே.
ஸோ 9:30க்குலாம் ஓப்பன் பண்ணணும். ஸோ போனால் விசி சார் முதல்ல இருந்தாங்க. ஸோ அதனால கொஞ்சம் பதட்டம் ஆயிட்டேன். வந்துட்டாங்க கரெக்டாக 9:45க்கு.
He was also different today, no?
ஸோ அதனால எனக்கு
கொஞ்சம்
கரெக்டாக எல்லாரையும் பேனலிஸ்ட் அலோவ் பண்ணணும். அது பதட்டம் உடனே எடுத்த உடனே வெல்கம் வேறு இல்லை. வெல்கம்
பார்த்தேன். நான் just saw in the YouTube. நல்லா இருந்துச்சு. இட்ஸ் குட் and done well. அவங்களும் கொஞ்சம் சீரியஸா எடுத்து பண்ணாங்க இல்ல?
ரொம்ப நல்லா பரவாயில்ல சார். எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணதை விட நல்லாவே பண்ணாங்க.
கரெக்ட் குட் கோயிங்.
ஓகே
கண்டினியூ பண்ணலாம். அந்த
ஆமா
கூடயும் கண்டினியூ பண்ணலாம், அந்த காலேஜோடயும் கண்டினியூ பண்ணலாம். நல்ல கோஆபரேஷன் சார்.
ஓகே குட். 2021 is good. இவங்க வினிதா if she comes now, அவங்கள ஒன்னு செக் பண்ணுங்க.
வினிதா ரேச்சல்
கரெக்ட். அப்புறம் ஜான்சன் ஜேக்கப். ஜான்சன் பாருங்க.
ஓகே ஜான்சன் ஜேக்கப்.
அப்புறம் ரிபு.
அவர் முன்னாடியே வந்துட்டாங்க சார்.
ரிபு இருக்கிறாங்களா?
சார் வந்துட்டாங்க.
ஓகே. யா வினிதா ஹாய். ட்ரிங்க் get set. Okay.
No, I just want to check if my video is audible.
Okay, your audio is clear. Your face is share. Yeah, please
share a video. Can I share?
You can. Now you can.
Hello, Vinita ma'am.
Oh, hi.
I welcome you, ma'am. I welcome you.
Okay. This is Dr. Shivashakti. So the person who helped us to put things together. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, nice meeting you.
So Shakti, it's all started with Vinita's conversation. So we should give full credit to her.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes, Vinita, you can check it.
Please check share screen. Now you are
a host. Yeah. Let me just see.
Hello, Clive. Can you hear me?
Clear, Johnson. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Done.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna play a video. Could you check if it is audible?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Clive, can you hear me?
Yes, Vijay. Clear,
no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it audible? Can you hear?
No.
Vinita,
voice is not audible, ma'am. Audio not audible.
Video is sir. Okay. Yeah, சொல்றேன்.
உங்களுக்கு தெரியும்ல. Ma'am, please stop the share.
Vinita, you please once you stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, yeah. You have to அது எங்க இருக்குங்க?
Click the share screen, ma'am.
Go to share. Yeah.
Down share computer sound and optimize screen sharing. Please click two options and then share the screen.
Could you get it?
Every time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Done. Now it's. Now it's.
You can hear?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
ராபர்ட் சார் உங்க மூலம் தான் நான் இதையே தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டேன்.
இல்ல
உங்களுக்கு ட்ரையல் பார்க்கும்போது தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டேன். ஆமா இல்லைன்னா ரொம்ப நாளா ஆடியோ கிடைக்கலன்ற நிறைய பேருக்கு எங்களால இந்த ப்ராப்ளம் இருந்தது.
Anyway, I think she has some videos. Now all set, Vinita, right?
Yeah.
But you have to wait till 3:30.
Sure.
15 minutes more, sorry.
But Samuel sir is waiting eagerly from 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
From 3 o'clock.
Sir, first person, sir. Professor Sambal sir, first person.
Dr. Shivashikti, this is his brother's daughter.
Oh.
Okay, just for your information.
Own brother, no, sir?
Yes.
Resemblance.
Vinita, Ria is also somewhere there.
Oh, really?
No. I'm just asking.
I don't know. I didn't check if she's.
Okay.
Sir?
Vijangal, hi.
Vijangal is there.
Hi, Vinita. Where are you now? Ankamali or
Mavelikara.
Mavelikara? Yeah, okay.
How
you
is
got?
Vinita? I'm Johnson here.
Oh, Johnson uncle, hi.
I'm listening to you.
Yeah, thank you.
When are you planning to go back, Vinita?
First week of December.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's quite a long time, right?
Yeah. I'll complete 6 months.
Vinita, could you listen to some of the speakers earlier?
I not entirely, but yesterday I did sign up. I listened for a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're starting without any prejudice.
Oh no, yeah.
No, it's going on well. I'm sure it will add much more value today. Yeah.
Turning off the video for a bit. I'll turn it on at 3:25 maybe.
Okay, please. Yeah. Fine. It's fine. Dr. Shweksti, you have made Ribu also part of the panelists?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ribus are available.
Ribu,
Oh,
Ribu
no,
Samuel.
no,
Okay,
no,
okay,
Ribu.
okay,
Yes,
okay.
I will add.
Okay.
Piju sir,
Viju,
Piju Jacob
is there.
sir only
Yes,
available.
yeah.
Ribu RIBU, no sir?
REEBU. REE. Done. Okay.
Ribu Samuel. Oh, okay.
Okay, done.
Ribu ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am.
Sorry.
Okay.
You told sir, no, I'm confused, sir.
That is Samuel, sir. Okay.
Doctor, the Himachal Badi sir is available. He is also Karnataka.
He spoke other day, no? Yeah, I remember. One of the.
Yes, sir.
So now you have a all India network. So from Chhattisgarh to now Tamil Nadu.
Kerala. Sir, 15th NSS Sister Concern. We collaborate with the NSS Sister Concern.
One more.
One more.
Okay.
15th onwards. 102nd program. 14th morning 100 program. 14th evening 101.
Oh, so you're not stopping with that.
No. 15th 102. Good afternoon.
So you can see in the panelist, Professor Johnson Jacob, he's in the Department of English. He has joined today. So then you're seeing Mr. Biju Jacob.
Oh, Ranjini Devi, Dr. Ranjini Devi. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can see them now.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Biju, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Johnson, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam.
Dr. Ranjini, ma'am. Good afternoon. Ranjini, ma'am, I miss you yesterday.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I too miss you.
Thank you. Dr. Himachal Badi, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have a format. Is it a 1 hour talk and followed by question and answer?
1.5. Yes, your wish, ma'am. Your wish, 1 hour or 1.5 hour. Take your own time.
And then followed by a question and answer thing.
Yeah. Usually, it's about an hour, then followed by a.
After this session, we will discuss question and answer. Robert, sir, any other staff, sir, panelist staff?
I don't know, from our side, I think that's okay, I think.
Yes, sir.
I can, if Girish is there, you can just make him. I don't know.
He's having
exam duty. Okay.
December le போகலாம்.
அப்படி சார் ரஞ்சனி மேம் நேற்று கொஸ்டின் ஆன்சர் டியூட்டி பார்த்தாங்களா இல்லையா?
She does it very faithfully because you know the boss is giving the task, you know, so she has to do it.
Okay,
Yeah,
sir.
so I have to do it now.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So when the orders come from Tamil to follow it.
Sir, we can
Yeah.
start, sir.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. I hope all are present, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Oh, Dr. Padmini Pai is.
All are seeing you only.
No.
Your pictures only visible.
No, today I am at home. No, Dr. Padmini Pai also probably you can add as a panelist.
Oh, okay, okay. I saw her name, sir.
Yeah. Maybe you can.
Oh, yes. Basmini
Right,
Pai.
shall we start?
Yes, yeah, we'll start.
Okay, sir.
Right. We'll start, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good afternoon, or we call it good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the 4th day of the International Webinar on Every Child Matters, Reaching the Unreached, Strategies, Challenges, and Success Stories, jointly organized by the Center for Capacity Building Program for School Teachers, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, and Crossland College, Brahmawar, Udupi. In fact, we are very happy to see the chat box. Those of us among the panelists, see, you know, already people are saying you have been giving us the best people throughout this webinar. I'm sure, you know, today also it will be a better one. So that really keeps us moving. Thank you, dear participants, for such kind of very positive comments, and some of them very directly wishing Dr. Shivashakti Rajamal, saying that, you know, you're doing a wonderful job. So I think that is a big motivation for us to continue. We are in the middle of this week-long webinar. We have 3 more days to go. So let me just take a minute to introduce this day's proceedings before we go for a formal welcome. Dr. Dalai Lama, a Nobel laureate, once said, if you want to be happy, have compassion. And if you want others to be happy, have compassion. That's very significant. There are very few people in the world who have compassion and then act on it. I'm very happy to say that today's speaker, Mrs. Vinita, has a big heart for compassion, and she has translated that compassion and empathy into action even when she was a student, probably at the age of 18 or 19. I must mention here that the selection of the theme for this webinar was largely a contribution from Mrs. Vinita Rachel Samuel. I must confess that, you know, a kind of interaction or a brainstorming I had with her made me to really come to this topic, because she was very confident that this will really be useful. I feel happy that we all have an opportunity to listen to her story of how she reached out to the unreached. I now request Mr. Biju Jacob, the IQAC coordinator of Crossland College, Brahmawar, Udupi, to introduce the speaker and formally welcome everyone to today's session. Yes, Mr. Biju.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to welcome you all to the 4th day of the week-long international webinar on Every Child Matters, Reaching the Unreached, Strategies, Challenges, and Success Stories. To begin with, I would like to welcome the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai, Professor Panchanadam, respected Registrar, Professor V. Balakrishnan, Dean of Faculty, Professor M. Govindan, Principal of Crossland College, Professor Samuel K. Samuel, and Organizing Secretaries, Dr. Shivashakti Rajamal and Dr. Robert Clay. I deem it privilege to introduce today's speaker, Mrs. Vinitha Rachel Varghese, is presently PhD candidate, Department of Economics, University of Illinois, Chicago, USA. Mrs. Vinitha has completed her BA in Economics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. During her stay there, she revived Young Economics School in 2012. She initiated Project Akshara in 2013, a member of Economics Discussion Group. She was the chief coordinator of First National Economics Conference under the banner of YES in 2013 at St. Stephen's College, Delhi, India. She then went to complete her MA in Economics from University of Hyderabad, Telangana, India. During her student days in Delhi in 2013, she started a social enterprise, Pencil, that is primary education needs and community initiated learning. She remains as the founder and chief executive officer of the project. Through Pencil, she could get the voluntary work by engaging more than 300 volunteers in uplifting the quality and facilities for primary school children from less privileged families across India. She then developed it as a successful model and implemented it urban and rural primary schools across many states of India. She later moved to Delhi School of Economics as a research assistant at Center for Development Economics. She then worked at International Food Policy Research Institute, Delhi, as senior research assistant at Quality Health and Nutrition Division. She did her internship successfully at Jan Jagaran Shakti Sanketan, Bihar, India, Save the Children, Bal Raksha, India, Delhi. Then she moved to USA and started at the University of Illinois, Chicago as the teaching assistant, introductory microeconomics, statistics for economics, and went on to complete her MA economics from University of Illinois. She has many presentations to her credit. Some of them are 2020 H2D2 at University of Michigan, AEFP, Western Illinois University, 2019 Illinois Economics Association, Chicago, 2018 Indian Statistical Institute, New Delhi, Economic Graduate Students Conference, Washington University at St. Louis, Illinois Economics Association, Chicago, 2013 Crossland College, Brahmawar, Karnataka, India, and 2011 Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, India. Mrs. Vinitha has some distinguished awards and achievements on her credit. Mitch-Crask Award for the year 2019 for excellent performance in coursework and comprehensive examinations, Department of Economics, University of Illinois, Chicago. 2018 Graduate Winifred Gerald Memorial Award for Excellence in Undergraduate Teaching, Department of Economics, University of Illinois, Chicago. On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai and Crossland College, Brahmawar, we wholeheartedly welcome you to this session. I also extend a hearty welcome to all the participants. Mrs. Vinitha, please take over the session. Thank you.
Dr. Jacob, for such an elaborate introduction. I don't think anyone has introduced me so elaborately in any of the conferences which I've attended. But thank you for that. Thank you very much, Dr. Clive, for this wonderful opportunity. I know, like most of the audience, most of the participants of this conference are much older, much more experienced than me, and I really feel very honored to have got this opportunity to talk about a few things which I have been very passionate about for the past 6 to 7 years. Before I get started into the topic, I'm going to share my screen to share a video with you to motivate my talk, the rest of my talk. All right. Thank you for your patience in watching that video. My topic for today's talk is even you can bring a change. Sorry about that. The next video just started playing. I'm very thankful for your patience and watching that video with me one more time. And the topic for my talk today is even you can bring a change, whoever you are, personal, organizational, and policy level interventions to inclusive education. So I did my schooling in Kerala, and I did it in a fairly good private school. And as a child, except the fact that I was born to parents who have been very compassionate, other than that, I never had any kind of exposure to the so-called less privileged or the unreached sections of society. But I was lucky to have got admission into St. Stephen's College, which kind of the experience there has kind of like completely shifted my perspectives about what to focus. So until my school, my only focus was to make sure that I get good grades. I should be, I was very competitive. I was a very competitive student. I wanted to make sure that I scored very well in my class 10 and 12 board exams. But it was during my undergraduation days at Stevens, where, that completely shifted my focus and drifted me away from this urge to get scores, and provided or opened up a plate full of like different avenues which I wasn't exposed to before. So it was my first experience of teaching was when I was at St. Stephen's College, where we had to teach children of karamcharis, meaning like we have to teach the children of mess workers, or, gardeners or sweepers or security guards. So all of them get free tuition at college, where like the students take classes for them. So that was my first exposure of teaching. And it was in Stevens that I got exposed to orphanages. I had to visit old age homes. I stayed with lepers. I worked in slums. So all of this were experiences which my college had given me. So that is one thing which most of us agree that Stevens has a big brand value. But apart from that, there are a few things which I thought any of us could replicate in our respective colleges, taking cues from Stevens. So one of those is this idea of having lots of clubs and societies in which students can get involved. And none of them, if I remember correctly, none of them is linked to any score that you get. You don't get any points in your exam for being part of those clubs or societies, but it was kind of a status symbol, or it was kind of like very competitive within your friends group. The only discussion which comes up is, okay, I'm part of this society. This is what we are going to do now. So that was kind of like usual conversations that we had. I don't think we had conversations about how much we are going to score in the exam, or, when is the next exam and things like that. So it was a very nice practice, which I thought had really helped me, not just me, maybe my classmates too, to kind of figure out the right career, which really fitted us, and kind of explore the passion in each of us. So I have classmates, all of us came as, students, proudly toppers, state toppers, who came together. We all came to a single class as students of economics. But now I have only a handful who are still pursuing economics. Many of them, I have a very national award-winning photographer from my class. I have a basketball player. So it was really nice to get an exposure to all kinds of things at college to explore your passion. So this was my first exposure to kind of everything, a lot more things than I was used to as a school student. And that helped me realize that my passion is actually in teaching and in development. So these are two things which have stayed constant with me since my undergraduation days. It's economics of education and development economics. I haven't drifted away from these since then. And later when I did my master's, that was the first time I had an opportunity to replicate this idea of these clubs and societies there, which I did. It was very enriching, because all the students came together to have very enriching conversations. We used to have guests coming over talking about things. We used to have corporate heads coming and talking about that. We held national conferences. So it was a very nice experience to do all of that, replicating what we had at Stevens. But my life-changing experience happened is when I sat in a class by Dr. Lakshmi Narayana, who is the speaker for this international webinar tomorrow. He taught me economics of education. So in his class, he's someone, I'm not sure, he's not a very assertive person. He's a very soft-spoken person. So if you listen to his talk tomorrow, I don't know how much you can relate to what I'm saying, but for me, it was when I sat in his class, unlike my other professors who were talking about the different theories which existed, they will refer to all latest research done on that field, and they'll expose us to the kind of literature on a particular field. On the other hand, Dr. Lakshmi Narayana's class was about, this is a theory in education, but this is the current scenario, what is happening around, and there exists a problem. What can you guys do about it? So it was kind of, for me, it sounded as if like I was maybe like 21 or 22. It was mostly like challenging me in every class of his. It was like, okay, you are 22. This is a big problem. Are you gonna do something about it? So it was kind of very challenging to sit in his classes, sit through his class and not do anything. So then it was during those classes that we had to go to a couple of government schools for a survey, which he organized as part of our program. So this was a very exciting thing about like how he devised his syllabus, where he included this survey where we have to go in person. The entire class have to split and go to government schools. We have to create survey questionnaires based on the topic that he asks us to do. We have to go there, sit there for a whole day, observe what's happening. We have to fill in these questionnaires with the help of those teachers, come back, then we write a paper on it. I mean, this is standard practice in a master's program as well, but for me, it was my first exposure to a government school in person. So I spent a whole day in that government school, and I was shocked. I was because I could see that midday meals were being served when I went there. The free lunch was being given, and they were being given eggs and lentils, dal and rice. But the children were refusing to eat them, in spite of the fact that the children did not even have a meal at home, because because the food had gone bad. So on records, how it comes is, okay, we are serving midday meal or free lunch to so many government schools, but the quality of the food is not even good enough for like a child who doesn't have another option, but even that child doesn't want to eat that food. So I was really shocked with that one-day experience at that school. So that was kind of like the turning point, I would say, when I thought that this is something that I really have to work on at a personal level. The next thing I did was, along with my master's program, I visited 2 schools which are very close to the university. I found out from a couple of employees from the university that these 2 schools exist very close by. And I went there, I sat there for a whole day in each of them. And they were very kind. So this was one good thing about being a university student. They didn't ask me a lot of questions. I just told them that I am a master's student at the Department of Economics at University of Hyderabad, and this is my ID. I just wanted to sit in your classes for a few days. And the headmasters of both the schools were very kind, and they allowed me to, without any further questions. And every experience was very, probably many of you might, unlike me, many of you might know this already, but for me, these were the first time when I was getting an exposure to all of these. So I sat in one of the schools. When I sat, you had around 150 children, and you had 4 teachers. And I was sitting in a class where the same teacher would teach maths for the first half an hour, then she will switch to teaching Hindi for the next half an hour, then to English. It's the same teacher teaching the same class. And she was teaching English to these kids. And when she was teaching English, I was like, all she did was, she has a textbook with her. She will just write it down. So if it's a word called sheep, so there's a sheep, then there's a Telugu translation of sheep in the textbook. She would just write those down on the blackboard. She would ask the students to write it down. They write it down. And that's all which happens in the English classes. And this is the person who could not communicate to me even a single word in English because I didn't know Telugu. The only way I could communicate was in English, but the English teacher could not even communicate a single word to me in English. So this is not a problem with the teacher, but there was an inherent problem with the system. The second school which I visited during that week was again another school which was close to the university. It's called Gopanpalli Tanda School. And where it was, you had around 120 children with just 2 teachers because you didn't have enough teachers in that school. So you couldn't even split the children according to the age groups. You just had to divide the children into 2 and being taught by these 2 different teachers. And the classes did not happen in classrooms. They did have classrooms, but the building was going to collapse at any time. So these classes were being taken in the veranda of these buildings. So there's a small building, a 2 classroom building, but the classes were being taken in the veranda and split into 2, and the walls were painted black to serve as blackboard. So these were all like very shocking to me because I was like, what is the reason why I did not get to learn in a school like that and why these children did or have to do it? So this was about more about like the privilege that I had and the thought that probably my years in Stevens, whenever we were engaged in any kind of social service activity, we were constantly told that don't think that you're doing a selfless thing. You're not. You're doing a very selfish thing because you get a lot of happiness doing this. Only those people passionate about doing those activities, constantly engaged in it, which implies that those people are getting some joy out of it. So which is a selfish motivated activity. So it was more about, I wasn't, so for me, it was more like, oh my God, like I've got this privilege and I have no right to keep this privilege to myself. These kids have to get the privilege that I've got, or I have to share the privilege that I've got. And so at the personal level, the personal intervention began there. So the one part of my presentation, as I told in the beginning, I'm going to talk about personal, organizational, and policy level interventions to inclusive education. So the personal intervention part began there. So I started visiting the school more often, and then 5 of my friends joined, and they were very interested. And then we started, when we thought of this idea of expanding it further, we put up posters in the university saying that we need volunteers to come and teach these students after school, say for 1 hour as like a tuition. And we had 75 volunteers signing up and across schools. So I belong to the School of Social Sciences. So that was one school, but we had volunteers coming from 10 different schools in the university. So this became everyone started talking about it. It reached the vice chancellor. The vice chancellor got involved and he was very happy with this project. So we changed this idea of giving after-class tuitions to we deciding to give them a specific tailor-made modules, which was 22-day long. So our constraint then was for giving tuitions, we had to be with them for a longer time, but we were in our final year of master's. We were going to graduate in like 2 months. So it was February already. My exam was going to be in late March or April. I don't remember correctly, but we didn't have a lot of time. So that's when we decided to make our own tailor-made syllabus of 22-day long. And we go there, we interact with these kids. We give them a basic understanding of everything like geography, history, astronomy, science, English. So we started giving them a basic exposure to everything in a very innovative, very different manner than like how traditional teachers would do. So this really was a very different experience of creating those modules together, going there every day, seeing the happiness of these children, and the university getting involved. Professor Lakshmi Narayana, who is going to be the speaker tomorrow, he getting involved, a lot more teachers, professors getting involved. And we even succeeded later to convince the district authorities. We went and talked to the district authorities, get more teacher appointments there, get more buildings there, get toilets there, get drinking water there. It all happened over a period of a year after that. So it was a very rewarding experience, though it happened by chance. It was a very rewarding experience. The most rewarding moment for me, even today, it has been 7 years. In the past 7 years, the moment which I always think, I think about it, I'm most grateful for, is we organized a grand finale program at the end of this 22-day teaching at the university in like the fanciest auditorium possible. So we paid for it. We got it done. We had a lot of students giving us money, so there was no dearth of money. A lot of students were giving us money. Professors were giving us money. The vice chancellor himself allotted a good amount of funds for us. So money wasn't a problem at all. So we booked the best auditorium on campus, which looks like a cinema hall. And we brought all these kids together. They performed there, all their parents together. They all performed there. And after the performance, a lot of parents, came and they were, in fact, like touching our feet. And many of them told us, like, we are not going to let our children drop out of school. We could see how much education can impact, how impactful education can be. We came to the university, we could see what level education can take you. So it was such a rewarding experience. And although it happened by chance. So that is that was my personal intervention part. So very rewarding, not a lot of effort, frankly. Very little money was involved. But the learnings there was so much power in a college or a university. I did not face an issue getting permission to go to that school just because I could say that I'm a student of that university. I did not have an issue getting an appointment to meet the district authorities because I could say that I'm coming from this university, or I have this letter from the vice chancellor, I have this letter from my professor. So it was very easy to access the kind of places I had to access because I had the tag of the university student. So I realized that one learning from that whole intervention was the power of a university or a college. The second thing that learning was the power of youngsters, because youngsters, my classmates, my colleagues who were all in the age range of, let's say, 18 to 24, they were so excited. They were putting their entire heart to it. And the only reward was just probably like the smiles of the kids and their parents, but they were putting their entire heart to it. And they were being so innovative. There was no force. I wasn't forcing them, this is how I want this to be. There was a lot of freedom which was given. Like everyone was innovating. Everyone was trying their best to figure out how best to deliver to these kids. So these were the two learnings from my personal level intervention to inclusive education as a master's student. And later on, so this is something like as colleges and universities, all of you, I'm guessing, must be associated with some college or a university, but something that you can do to get your students involved at a personal level is something like this, to just get started with some clubs or societies there. Just get them involved, and you don't even if you're professors, if you're professors or faculty, you don't have to spend a lot of time. Just let them do what they want to do. And youngsters do have a lot of power. They do have this ability to innovate much beyond what we think they are capable of. The only thing they would need is kind of a support. The only thing I needed was when I went to the vice chancellor asking for money, I just needed some money. And that money, for him, it was nothing. Or I needed a letter to go to the district authorities. I just wanted some professor to write a letter to me. So these are the only things probably that you would have to, as faculty, that you would have to invest in. But it's going to be life-changing for your students. Even today, I don't think I have, I hope, I see that Lakshmi Narayana sir is here. I don't think I've ever told him this before. And, yeah, I'm extremely grateful for having had him as my professor there, for being so encouraging, being so supportive for that entire project. So that was the personal intervention part. Now, because seeing that success of that project, seeing the success not just from the school's perspective, but also from the volunteers' perspective, because the volunteers were now getting a lot more exposure than what they were used to. Like for me personally, I would never sit and create very innovative modules, which were later requested by a lot of NGOs across the country. If I had to do it for a course, I wouldn't. But similarly, a lot of volunteers were positively affected. A lot of them realized, got a first-hand experience on what is happening to the education system, especially for the less privileged children. And they got interested in this field. And so they've taken up a career in this field later. So it was a win-win for both the kids as well as for the volunteers. Moving on to my organizational intervention. So seeing the success of Project Akshara, which is a video I showed in the beginning as a motivational video, seeing the success of Project Akshara, both in terms of the students, the children, as well as the volunteers, I decided to replicate it elsewhere because it was a set model. It was proven to be a successful model at one place. I decided to replicate it elsewhere. And that time, I wish today when I was beginning to start this webinar, and when I realized the kind of participants, and most of you being associated with some college or university, I wish I was like, oh, I wish I got to talk to this group probably 6 years ago. I would have benefited a lot because I was trying all possible ways to use my network to find colleges and universities to replicate this model. That was a kind of organizational intervention which I initiated, and under the name Pencil. It's an acronym. It's expanded as Primary Education Needs and Community Initiated Learning. It kind of replicated the Project Akshara, which was implemented at the University of Hyderabad on a much larger scale. So that was a 22-day module. We started off with a 45-day teaching module. Our only objective was to make this connection between a college or a university to the government schools nearby, or the schools, or if you don't have schools, to the slums nearby where children don't go to school. So our target group was either children who are not going to school or children who are from less privileged families who are going to government primary schools. I'm not dismissing, I'm not saying that all government schools are bad. No, I'm not. That's not my point. But my point was to target its children who do not have anyone else to talk for them. So if the children are being sent to a private school, our idea was the parents have some money, parents probably have a regular job, the parents will be more involved with their kids. But the kind of kids that we worked with, most of them were children of construction workers or rickshawalas when we worked in Delhi. Daily wage workers. These are parents who did not know what to talk to when they went and met the teachers. So these are the kind of kids with whom we wanted to work with. So then we started replicating it. So we developed this 45-day module. Our only objective was to connect this university or college to the children around, who needed this voice. So we did that at multiple places. So the first obvious place which I could go to was St. Stephen's College, because obviously that's where I did my undergrad from. That is my next most comfortable place after University of Hyderabad. So we did it there, and it was a success. It was a sustainable model. We did it in collaboration with the club, which is called Social Service League, which is a club which deals with all these social service activities. So we did it in collaboration with them, and we expanded it to a couple of, we had like 2 or 3 schools. And then later, 2 volunteers of that project started a Pencil project using the 11th and 12th grade students of their school to cater to children in the slum around. So they studied in a very fancy private school in Delhi. So that's how there was a snowballing effect. I would frankly, I'm feeling very shy to actually flatter Lakshmi Narayana sir when he's here. I didn't expect him to join, but I would like to say it this way, that small spark which Lakshmi Narayana sir instilled in his economics of education class actually kind of like inspired me to do what I did. And it was kind of inspiring more volunteers to do it in their capacity at other places. It was kind of a snowballing effect. So this was kind of the one reason, and one of the things to remember is the power of each of you as a faculty. You don't realize it, but you are changing lives, not just of your students, but there's a lot of externalities, positive externalities associated with that. So 2 volunteers from that project, which we started at Stevens, they started it elsewhere. And then several of the volunteers from the project later joined as Teach for India fellows or other teaching fellowships abroad, or they have joined NGOs which are working for education. So a lot of people who otherwise would not have really bothered about this field have got their attention because of all these projects, and they've started taking up that as a career, which is overwhelming in a very positive sense, because these are externalities, or these are kind of results which we never expected. I never expected these things to happen. My only objective was, okay, these kids don't have a toilet. Let me try and convince people to get them a toilet. These children are not able to get an exposure to the kind of exposure that I had as a student. I just wanted them to learn all these things. But the externalities which came with, in addition to those, were really overwhelming and were a lot. So the snowballing effect continued. So we had projects as part of Pencil at multiple places, multiple states, and my learning from there. One, all projects won't be successful, and that's okay. And one of the projects which wasn't a success is a project which was started not by a college, but instead we had a few, maybe like 10 or 12 corporate employees. So these guys are working in different corporate firms. They wanted to come together, and they were not related otherwise, but these are random people coming together, and they wanted to help schools near their offices. But that wasn't a success. So the successful project were those where a college or a university, which is something which is stationary, was there. So even if this batch of students graduate, you have another batch of students, or you have the junior batch to take over this project. So those are the kind of places which actually this continued as a success. Another learning, the same learning as with my personal intervention, it continued. The power of youngsters I could just see the power of youngsters even more so, because there were so many projects. I wasn't personally involved with all of them. It was more about this idea being replicated at multiple places, people taking up this leadership role. We had a project in Kerala at an engineering college. I was very skeptical about doing it in an engineering college, because usually engineering students, at least by the syllabus, they do not have a lot of exposure to look at like the social aspect of the society. While on the other hand, like arts and humanities students, they learn a lot of society, a lot of things about society. So I wasn't expecting that these two to be, I didn't expect this kind of a result from engineering students, but it was surprising. It was really wonderful, because these guys organized a lot of things. They had science experiments. So these are the same students which, at their college, they would be blamed by their professors at not doing their work. They're not good at their engineering skills or engineering lab work. But this is the same set of students who were actually using their engineering skills to do these science experiments for these kids, or very, very, really fancy things. So another learning which I realized in my personal intervention, but it got like even strengthened in this organizational intervention, was just let people go. Just let people do what they want to do. Just give them a platform. Don't try to force them to follow this. Like just the way I remember, like the traditional way of teaching, during my undergrad days. I'm not sure if it has changed. Is like you have a set syllabus, you have to study this. You know that this is going to come for the exam. You study that, you get good grades. So it's like a standard format to follow. So we don't have a lot of opportunity to innovate. We don't have a lot of opportunity for these students to explore what they are capable of. We are just forcing them to be capable of doing just this. But in the pencil projects, which I found as successful, were this thing about just letting the volunteers, just letting these students do what they want to do, and just give them this opportunity. Don't stop them, like, because of some. I always found ways to get to implement whatever these guys wanted to do, and it was a wonderful experience. It was a really wonderful experience. But if you ask me today, this were done back in like 2013 through 2016. If you ask me today, how many of those projects are still continuing, I would say just 50%, sorry, just 50% of them are still continuing, not as part of Pencil, but the universities or colleges have taken it up and they're doing it on their own. But am I upset about it? My answer would be a no, because my objective when I started off was just to connect the college to the schools, just to let that one small group of children get an additional exposure. That was my only objective. But I have been lucky to have got all these additional benefits of influencing the volunteers, influencing the kids in a positive way. The kids and volunteers are still in touch at many places, and the volunteers, most of the time, they get in touch with me. They send me a text saying, I got a message, I got a letter, because we used to teach children to write letters. I got a letter from this kid I taught 2 years ago. She's now in a different school. She's in 7th grade. So it's really nice to have these few experiences like that. So the model has been sustainable. So I wish, as I said earlier, I wish I had this opportunity to talk to all of you probably 3 years ago, where I probably could have marketed Pencil and would have at least got like one contact or one more college to replicate our project. So that was the organizational intervention part. The third part of my talk is about the policy interventions to inclusive education. So I was a very judgmental person. So for all the time when I was working with both at the personal level as the organizational level, my biggest concern was the government is not doing well. So the first time when I saw these schools, I was like, why isn't the government providing them toilets? Why aren't they not getting drinking water? It's a policy level problem. So the only solution is for me to work at a personal level. I am not dismissing that. I still stick to that. We definitely, each of us, every drop counts, and it counts a lot. So when I was a master's student years ago, my thought was, okay, we have to stand together to bring this change, because the government is not doing well. Then later, a few years later, I realized that there's a limit to what we can do at a personal level. Let me expand it and make it in an organization, replicate it elsewhere. It was successful. We could do a lot more. And so it was complementary. It doesn't mean that because I started an organization, I was doing activities under the organization, it doesn't mean that those individual efforts should stop. Those individual efforts and these organization interventions are complementary. So let me just go back to the organization aspect, because one more suggestion that I had was for the policy intervention, the personal intervention, my suggestion was to start clubs and societies in your colleges, let your students explore things, give them an exposure to the unreached sections of the society, and let them do what they can. The organization intervention, my suggestion would be, there'll be a lot of organizations, just like Pencil, as I've been mentioning multiple times. Organizations like Pencil or NGOs are always looking out for support from people like you. It doesn't have to be financial support. It would just mean a resource as a, a university has a lot of resource, like, using a letterhead of the university is very different from using the letterhead of an NGO. So there's a lot of support that you can provide as a college or a university to the organizations which are doing genuine work, and with minimal investment. So all you probably had to do is to figure out whether it's a genuine organization, and probably let them write somewhere that it's being done in collaboration with your university or college. And I think, if I'm not wrong, you would get a lot of points by NAC and UGC for all of that in India, if I'm not wrong. So those are the a few suggestions that you guys can do at the organizational intervention level. Moving on to the policy intervention level. Sorry that I switched back and forth, but the policy intervention level that I had mentioned earlier I was very skeptical. I was very judgmental. So my thought a few years ago was the government is not doing enough. But later when I started Pencil, I was like, okay, so the personal interventions and organization interventions are complementary. Both of them should happen. But still I was of the opinion that, oh no, but still the policies, you can't do anything. They're just coming with some policies. They're not of any use. But now as a research student for the past 3 years, I have started to think less emotionally and more evidence-based. So which has really helped me to come up with, with ideas and interventions which are more fact-based or which has a balance between facts and emotions, which has been good, which has been a new revelation to me. So Right to Education Act, as you all know, was before the new education policy. That was the biggest act which happened in the field of education in a long time. So our Right to Education Act, there's a lot which has happened because of that. I wasn't a great supporter of Right to Education Act in the sense that I didn't think that a lot had happened because of the act. And even there is empirical evidence that Right to Education Act hasn't really increased the enrollment, school enrollment of children. But recently, when I was working on one of the projects which I'm working on at a personal level, is looking at the impact of this Right to Education Act, the impact of this policy on one group of children, which is the disabled children. And I see I see massive effect. Like the effect is huge. So there's a 65% increase in school enrollment of disabled children, which I was taken aback because I was of the opinion that this policy is of no use to anyone. And my judgment was baseless. But when I looked at in particular, because I was interested in looking at disabled children, I was interested in looking at how this policy affected them. And it did affect them a lot, although it wasn't targeted at them. I don't think the policymakers specifically targeted at disabled children. None of the policy documents say so. But eventually, when we look at it years later, it was passed in 2009. When we look at it so many years later, we actually see that disabled children benefited from that. So in each district, it's just an average number. So in each district, in each grade, you actually see an increase of 200 more disabled children enrolling in school because of this act. So this is an evaluation of policy which I have done in the past year or two. So at this point where I stand now, I may change, my opinions may change over time, and which is what is expected, right? As we grow, your opinions should change, right? So, but at this point, as I stand today, I think personal, organization, and policy interventions, they're all complementary to each other. We should have all of them happening at the same time. The government policy itself cannot help. An organization intervention itself cannot help. A personal intervention itself cannot help. But all of them are important. All of them are extremely valuable in making sure we have inclusive education. So this is where I stand as of today. Apart from beyond my topic, another potential place that the participants, especially because, as I said, are associated with colleges, can help is to help research students like us. Because there's a lot of places that you can really do. I know that you get a lot of funding from UGC to do research. And it's difficult. It's a wonderful thing to evaluate interventions, evaluate policies so that we know exactly what is happening. Exactly. So if I could go back today, back to 2014 when I founded Pencil, what I would have done is to evaluate how Pencil was doing. I know this, I have this anecdotal evidence. I know that I know a few students have benefited. I know a few volunteers have benefited. But if I could go back, this is something I want to do. I want to evaluate how well that intervention helped. So even with small things that you do in class, like, if you want to see how much of an impact that you have by sending a reminder email to your students about a homework which is due, you could do that. It's a wonderful experience. It's a really nice experience to see how much impact on your student. And then you can come up with a research project based on that. And you have a lot of, I'm guessing that you get funding from UGC for doing researches like that. Another, while doing all of that, many of you might be, you might be PhD, you have done PhD, you might have been engaged in research before, but another possible thing that you could do is to get research students like us involved. Because hiring evaluators is where you have evaluators, you have PhD holders who are full-time researchers, who are evaluators. The kind of places which I worked with, like International Food Policy Research Institute, it's an evaluation agency. So it evaluates the kind of the food and nutrition, the department that I was part of. We evaluate food and nutrition related interventions which happen throughout the world at the government level. So the government policy level. It's very expensive to hire evaluators, but a win-win situation is if you hire research students who are studying, who are doing their PhD programs, we as research students, we are desperately in need of data. And for you will win by collaborating with research students by having a good research project for which you can get funding. And probably if you are able to put in enough input to that project, you can even be a co-author in like international peer-reviewed journals. So that's a good partnership that research students can establish with research students. An example would be, especially because we have teacher education university here, one of the new projects that I have in mind is I'm thinking about how a change in the composition or a change in the kind of students who take up B.Ed education, how has that changed student outcomes? This is one research question I'm looking at. So this is something that I'm not marketing myself. I'm not requesting that you should help me, but I'm just opening up a new avenue where you can have a partnership. So this is something for specifically for my case as an example. The only thing that you have to help me with is providing me data with what was the admission, the scores of these kids, what are the kind of students which came in, what was their score in their high school, in their 12th grade, did they have an entrance exam, what was their score in that, how much are they scoring now? So these are the data which you easily have in your colleges or universities. This is something that you can share with us. And in return, we will evaluate it, or we'll come up with this project, and you can claim it as your project and probably use your UGC fund for that. And you don't even have to pay research students if we are studying abroad, because we get our stipend. So you don't even have to pay to hire research students, but you can easily get a collaborative project. You can probably, if you are able to put some input, you can be a co-author in international peer-reviewed journals. So these are kind of some partnerships which you could do in some new avenues in which you could collaborate on. So let me conclude my talk for the day by just recapping a few things which I've done. Is one, I talked about personal level, organizational level, and policy level interventions to inclusive education. I talked about different challenges I've faced and different things I've learned from each of those. I also suggested a few things. I also suggested a few things which you could do as colleges and universities in each of these three mode of interventions. And in addition to the general topic that I was talking about, I just marketed myself as a research student to get some data. Yeah, thank you very much.
So Vinita, there you are. So you didn't market yourself, actually. You did market the concept of reaching the unreached in a beautiful way. I just going through the chat box. Maybe later, you will also get a chance to see that. But I would just say that we feel greatly, satisfied that we have got a mix of youngsters and experienced people in these 7 days. Youngsters are providing some wonderful insights, which otherwise we couldn't really have thought about. So I would really say you are not given a presentation, but you have made an kind of a sharing, which is life-changing. I am sure there are many who are in the participants already started saying that, how from experience you are able to say that, you said about evidence-based, but more than that, I think what you did, you are able to communicate it so clearly, very practically, how people can take it up. So I think your next stop should be a TEDx talk. That is what I visualize, because it looks so appealing. It's very clear, and there is a lot of logic in your flow. So I just personally feel, as you said, all what you require is a small spark, and you said every drop counts. And I think that is what is the essence of what you said. And honestly, I understood, to bring a change you don't need money. What you just need is, a heart has to be touched, and I'm sure the rest, the resources you will get. I'm sure your professor is listening to you, who gave you the spark. I think
I'm getting so shy. I don't think I've ever opened it up to him.
Okay, so it will be a great thing if there is also an interaction between Professor K. Lakshmi Narayana. Sir, would you like to interact with her?
Oh no.
Okay, so I think that's personal choice. But now anyway, it is open forum for question answer. Well done, Vinita. Yes, Dr. Shivashakti, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vinita Resalman. Dr. Anjali, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to read it.
Yes, ma'am.
The first question, how can we bring holistic development of a child according to NEP 2020?
Thank you for this question. I would have to not answer this question. One, because at the stage that I am standing now, as I said, I can't. I would, like as a research student, my problem now is I can't talk on policies without having the evidence to it. So I can't make judgments anymore. I would have done probably 3 years ago, but not anymore. And so I'm not an expert either. So I'm sorry that I'll have to not answer this question. Probably I'll answer it like maybe 5 years down the line, how it did. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Next question. Right of education is instrument to abolish child labor in India. Please explain the child labor rights and education systems in Western countries.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is right, because one of the things which we saw, I don't know if Dr. Lakshmi Narayan remembers, the first school which we went to as part of the survey in Hyderabad, it was called Model School. So it's supposed to be like one of the best schools among government schools. It's in Model School, Alia, Hyderabad, if I remember correct. So we had, while we were interacting with students, we had a few students who who told us that so they were absent the previous day or something. So I was asking them why were they absent the previous day. So they work in pearl houses. So Hyderabad has a lot of pearl houses. So they stand on the street and they call people to come inside pearl houses, and they get paid for it. So they go to do that sometimes. So it's kind of like, child labor is very prevalent in India, as we know. And it's something that needs to be addressed. But again, the question that we were facing then, and which still holds true, is that the kind of families which come up, from where these children have to go for this child labor, it's a source of income for them, right? It's not like you suddenly come up saying that you can't send your child to work, but what do you give them in return? Are you giving them some social welfare program to these families? Are you giving them some welfare support? Are you giving them more ration? Are you giving them more money? Even if you tell them, like, the situation is very different in those houses. These kids have to go to work to feed the rest of the family or feed themselves. So in the US, I don't think child labor exists, mostly because of the social welfare programs which are there. So so in India, the thing is, we don't have, which is why we need to come up to that level of being more documented. We need to have a lot more of us, or everyone in the society, to be a data. Because in the US, everyone is documented. You know every single person. You know that how much they earn. You know that this person doesn't have enough money. If we don't provide support, this child will have to go for work. The government would give them support at a targeted basis, which is what we're missing. I'm not saying that we don't have homeless there in the US. We do. But we don't see a lot of child labor. One, because child education is free. It's free in India too, but the quality of education is good. Most people, even the children of my professors, all of them go to public schools. The thing is, you have targeted social welfare programs, which is very helpful. But can we do it here? We can. But the point is, we are not documented, right? We still have a lot of people who do not have a ration card. So even if you have a ration card, like say I've been staying in Kerala for the past 3 to 4 months. And I see how important, or how useful these ration cards have been. I myself have availed the ration food which have been provided by the government. But I remember the time when I was in Bihar, back in 2011, when I was doing my master's. I did an internship in Bihar. I in fact I was part of a social audit. We were looking at how these ICDS, which is part of this, we give dry rations to children, pregnant women and lactating women. And it was very surprising that, a lot of these women, a lot of these beneficiaries do not even get it. So even if the problem is we don't have anyone documented. Second, the problem is if you have them documented, have these social welfare programs targeted at them. Third, even if we have them targeted, we have a lot of loopholes. So when I was in Bihar, on a random conversation that I had with villagers, the thing which came up is, so they have this ration card, so they have a slip, they have at that time they had some pink slip or something. So they have 12 slips that they get every year. And they get ration only for 1 month in a whole year. And they think that's all they are entitled to. They do not know that they are entitled for ration every year. They also do not know that comes from the government. It's their right. So what they think is the family, which is a ration shop owner, which in those villages happen to be the most wealthy or most powerful house, they would, so these people who actually end up getting only ration for just 1 month out of 12 months, they think it's their, they are just doing out, this family is just giving it out, by themselves. They think very high of these families because they think that these guys are doing them a favor, by giving them that 1 month of ration. So ignorance is a big problem. So this is also somewhere that, colleges and universities can play an important role, at least in the community that you are in. Make sure that the people around you know about their rights, about their basic rights. That this is ration, you are entitled to get this, or if you're a child, you are entitled to get ICDS rations and things like that. So I mean, that's another place. I'm glad that this came up. That's another place that we can, as colleges, play a role, is to just educate the community around about their rights. But in many places, even if you educate, I don't know how well the system works. But these are the few things which I think, like, drawing some inspiration from Western countries, what we have to do is document everyone. We should have every single person in our country as a data point. We should have information about everyone in our records. 2, we should have targeted social welfare programs. We should target, okay, this person certainly doesn't have as much income. If we do not provide this support, he's going to send his child to work. So to avoid that, I'm going to provide this house who has this potential of sending his child to work so much money so that he doesn't send the child to work. And the third, even if we have documentation, targeting, we have to make sure that people are aware of their rights. So this is what my humble suggestion is. But again, I'm not an expert to it. This is just...
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next question is also from the same participant. How we will achieve empowerment of education to deprived sections in India?
All right. Is it, do they, okay, we don't have an option to ask clarifying questions, right? Do we? Or no? Do they, okay, let me say this way. Okay, say like empowerment in education, I didn't understand it very well. So if empowerment in education, my understanding is two things, two components. One is improving the access to it, like, let more people get education. 2 is improving the quality of education. So improving the access is what I talked during the seminar, right? From my limited experience, we can have policy level, personal level, and organizational level interventions to achieve improvement in access, to let more people get educated. But how can we improve the quality? Again, that is a question which I would take cues from the Western world. So what they do is, there's a lot of interventions or policies are evidence-based. Here, the point is, our politicians make these policies. Are these policies based on something? Like, what is it based on? Well, how does a politician decide that this is the number of children to be in a class? This is the ideal size, class size. Is it based on some research? Is it based on some evidence? Do we have some evidence that having 20 children is better than having 30 children? So having this, interaction of academia and policymakers is the ideal situation, at least taking cues from the Western. I'm not saying that the Western world is doing the best or, they are like the ideal world to be in, or no, I'm not saying that. But some positive things which we see there is because of this, interaction between policymakers and academia. Or even if you don't involve academicians in policy making, you could at least make an effort to refer to what has been done already. What is empirical evidence? It says some evidence that this is something that has to be implemented at the policy level. So that is what I would say to improve the quality. So the empowerment of education, I defined as 2 different things. One is improving the access, which is what we discussed in the entire talk. And second is increasing the quality, which I think is a possible way to do is to have an interaction between academia and policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question, how could we collaborate with you for this project?
Oh, thank you so much. I would be extremely glad, but I don't know which project you're referring to, if it is Pencil at the intervention side or the research, which is the evaluation side, either of which you could just email me. And so we could take it from there. And my email, I can share my email with you, so we can take it up from there. Thank you.
Shivshakti ma'am, there are no more questions, only positive compliments, only compliments.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sir, Robert sir?
Yes. So maybe I think Dr. Shivshakti, you've got a great collaborator now. Maybe, what she proposed, there are a lot of things that they require as evidence-based. I think you are also in the research, so you can definitely take it forward. So as I said, Vinita, there are a lot of people who have said, the next point should be TEDx talk. So best wishes. So that is a point to say that, really you have delivered an excellent talk. So I just only want to have Professor Lakshmi Narayana, your student is here. She spoke a lot about you. Would you like to say a sentence? You can unmute and say something.
Maybe he's not there.
If you would like to say a sentence about your student.
Did he just disappear? I think he disappeared. I know him.
Okay, so I think he's so humble that
he's very humble.
Yes. So anyway, so I think we found it extremely enriching. Vinita, I think it's time that we wind up with the vote of thanks. I think people who have been the resource person, they have come and joined. We can see Dr. Patmini Pai attending and some others also. So it's a great sign that people are enjoying what we are offering during these days of webinar. Definitely have added a lot of insights and value to this series of webinar. Thank you so much once again. As I said, it's because of Vinita that we could really shape up this particular webinar series. Once again, thank you so much, Vinita. The formal vote of thanks comes from Professor Johnson Jacob. He is the head of the Department of College of English, and he is also the head of the Department of the Languages. So to Professor Johnson.
Thank you, Clive, for the introductory words. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Miss Vinita Rachel Burgess, it was really an inspiration listening to you. Though I know you for the last so many years, I haven't listened to you. I never knew about the projects you were involved in. Well, just to wind up the session for the day and before we call it a day, I'd just like to take you along the path she showed us. No, from the introduction, we understand from what Biju said, she has had a very checkered career, though she is still a student doing her research in America. She spoke from experience. That's what really touched me. She spoke about clubs and societies. We do have our clubs and societies, but we don't take it to the society. Our clubs and societies remain in our colleges or in our universities. And with that, everything comes to an end. She spoke about the economics of education, which the inspiration came from her own teacher. We would have liked to listen to him, but somehow he disappeared. Then he spoke about the different problems the children of Andhra Pradesh are having. And as I am also involved in teaching in a government college right now, along with Crossland College on deputation, I know how difficult it is to run a government institution. We are having online classes now, but the government has not appointed the guest faculties needed to complete what we are supposed to teach. It's all just managing the business. Well, they will cite so many reasons, no funds because of the COVID outbreak and things like that. And so I could relate myself with many of the things that you said. But somehow we have not gone out of the colleges to interact with these children.
आपकी मर्जी हम कह रहे हैं.
Then about the number of students in a class you mentioned.
नहीं मत पहनिएगा, हमको खराब लग रहा है.
Someone else is talking, I believe. Now we are actually dealing with a class where we have more than 100 students in a class, in a degree college I am saying. So it's quite a task to handle. Then you spoke about the different interventions we should have, organizational, policy and personnel. So Vinita, it was really an eye-opener. It was wonderful to listen to you, representing the host college and the university. I extend to you our deepest thanks. Thank you, Vinita. Before I conclude, I also wish to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai, Professor Panjanantha, respected Registrar Professor V. Balakrishnan, Dean of Faculty Professor M. Govindan, the Principal of Crossland College Professor Samuel K. Samuel, and the organizing secretaries, Dr. Shivakashi Rajamal and Dr. Robert Klein. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was a good experience. Thank you, one and all. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you once again to Vinita to really make a big impact on the audience and all others. Professor Johnson Jacob also would like to thank you for giving the vote of thanks, and to Mr. Biju Jacob for the welcome. and Dr. Ranjini for raising the questions on behalf of the participants. So thank you so much. Dr. Shivashakti, over to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
So tomorrow, there is a small change in the timings. It will start at 11 instead of 3:30 today. So we are waiting for another exciting presentation from the guru of Mrs. Vinitha. Professor Lakshmi Narayan will be the resource person. So please tune in at 11. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Vinitha, Rachel. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Anjali, ma'am. Thank you, sir, Dr. Johnson, Jacob, sir. Thank you, Samuel, sir, Professor Samuel, sir. Thank you all the panelists and thank you all the participants. Thank you so much.